What's up, Truth? This is Ben, and I want to talk about Bart Ehrman for a minute. Now, I've probably spoken about Bart Ehrman before. I know I've mentioned him in some Instagram posts from back in the day, and I've probably spoken about him here and there throughout my videos. He's very popular. Most people know who he is if you've ever taken time to look into textual criticism in regards to the New Testament or maybe even the Old Testament. You've probably run across Bart Ehrman. He's probably the most popular secular. He calls himself an agnostic scholar. I don't really think he's an agnostic. I think he just says that so he can kind of play that, that safe middle ground within scholarship so that he, can maybe appear to be objective sometimes when writing his books or when lecturing. And he gets a lot right. I don't want to say that he gets everything wrong. He does get a lot right. He's very smart. He actually wrote a book called Did Jesus Exist? Because he got sick and tired of answering the question because people would ask him, why do these stupid Christians, and I'm paraphrasing, why do these Christians, have this, this stupid idea that Jesus existed? We know he's a myth. What do you think, Mr. Ehrman? How can we prove that Jesus was a myth? And then Bart Ehrman would reply, well, the problem is that Jesus wasn't a myth. We know pretty much 100% that he actually existed. He was a Jew in the first century. Paul knew him. James, the brother of Jesus, knew him. We have his writings. So he's very objective, historically, sometimes when he's speaking and writing. But then other times he's not. And the reason I'm bringing this up today is because I was watching a video called, I think it was called Rhett's Spiritual Deconstruction. Now, Rhett McLaughlin is one of the co-hosts of a show called Good Mythical Morning. Has somewhere in the realm of 17 million subscribers right now. They've been doing it for a long time. I think since back in 2010, even before that, probably 2008-ish, something like that. So 10 or 12 years. They got a couple of dozen seasons. I think maybe they're in season 18 right now. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head exactly. But I've been watching them for a long time because it's usually, for the most part, good, clean fun. But a couple of seasons ago, I kind of noticed a change in demeanor, a change in presentation. Nothing huge, but I noticed things I hadn't heard before, like profanity I'd never heard before. And not crazy amounts, just maybe a little bit here or there. The utilage of kind of sexual innuendos, just more, whereas it kind of felt like it was PG before, I kind of went to PG-13. I didn't think too much about it, but it was just kind of like, it's something I noticed because it was something that I hadn't seen before. And so I was like, okay. And then I had seen a couple of videos by other people talking about Rhett and Lincoln, how they had finally opened up about their spiritual deconstruction is what they call it, or their deconversion, I think. And I was watching Rhett's spiritual deconstruction video the other day. And he said one of the things that happened was he was wrestling with scriptures, wrestling with young earth, old earth, science. He was reading Francis Collins. He was reading Hugh Ross. He was looking at things like that. He was looking at Christian apologetics. But he was still, he was wrestling with the science part of it, but he was still considered himself a Christian until he read Bart Ehrman. Now, he read Bart Ehrman's book, Jesus Interrupted. Now, I have that book, and I'm going to do a more fledged out examination of what Rhett said and what we see in Ehrman's books. In the next few weeks, I'm going to have a video on that. I really want to sit down and kind of look into it. But I just want to give some general thoughts on why I don't think Rhett should be convinced about Ehrman's arguments. And there's a couple of reasons why. One of the problems is that Bart Ehrman is very intelligent when it comes to lower criticism. Now, there's a difference in scholarship between lower criticism and higher criticism. Lower criticism, in brief, is kind of just an examination of the manuscripts, like the physical medium of what we see in the scriptures, right? The New Testament manuscripts, if you're looking at minuscule, uncial, if you're looking, the dating of the manuscripts, the writing, papyrus, codex, as a vellum, those things. So the actual physical part of textual criticism. Bart Ehrman is very smart with that. He reads Koine Greek, so he knows the language. He's very intelligent. But one of the problems is that Bart Ehrman frequently moves over into the realm of higher criticism, right, which is engaging the text and what it actually says. And for instance, when one of the famous examples from his book, Jesus Interrupted, is that he claims that Mark and Luke have a totally different and contradictory view of Jesus' crucifixion, right, leading up to it. In Mark or in Luke, it looks like Jesus is in control and calm and collected and going to the cross. And the other one, Jesus is in despair and freaking out. And so there's, you know, a conflict in the text, and they provide different, you know, ideas. And it sounds good. It does sound good if you don't know much about the New Testament, if you don't read the New Testament, if you don't take the Gospels, set them down side by side and read through them, read what was happening at the Last Supper. Does Jesus actually seem like he's out of control? Read, you know, how he deals with, and it's just, that's one of the issues, is that he pits the scriptures supposedly against each other, but they're not actually against each other. He just takes a little bit here, takes a little bit there, and then he preys on the idea that people don't really know their Bible. And he sounds convincing. He does. And I mean, and then even sometimes when he's speaking about lower criticism, he sounds convincing, but his peer-reviewed scholarly writings are different than what he presents in his books. For instance, Misquoting Jesus, probably his, you know, the book that launched him into the area he is today, where people know him. And he made the claim, and it was going around for years, and I still hear it going around now. You know, there's 400,000 errors between the New Testament manuscripts, and there's 400,000, you know, so that's 3 errors per word. There's only 138,000 words. So, you know, you got all these variants, and we just can't know what's there. Well, it is true that there are 400,000 differences between the New Testament manuscripts, but that's because there's thousands of handwritten manuscripts in different languages, and 99% of those have absolutely no impact on the text. It's a spelling error, a word order error. In Greek, the word order is irrelevant. It's what's important is the verbs, and there's just different ways to piece it together. So you could have, you know, the words are in different orders. So you could have a punctuation error or capitalization error, or one manuscript might say, you know, the gospel according to Mark, and one might just say the gospel of Mark, or it might, you know, there's 99, they're non-viable is what the name of it. They're non-viable, not errors, non-viable, I can't speak right now. They're non-viable issues. They don't impact the text, they're irrelevant. And he knows this, and I know this, and the world of scholarship knows this, but the general public doesn't know this. And so when he says things like that, it's like, oh man, that sounds, you know, 400,000 errors. That's a lot. That sounds crazy. That's a lot of errors. It is a lot of errors. It's a lot of errors because we have a lot of manuscripts. We have more manuscripts for the New Testament than any work of history in antiquity. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of errors, but those errors are irrelevant. They don't impact the text. And if you didn't know that, if you didn't study the world of scholarship, you may think that that claim sounds good to you. And the problem, again, is that Ehrman would never use that argument in peer-reviewed research, because he knows that his audience in the peer-reviewed world, right, his peers, the people who also study the New Testament, they know that that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So he doesn't bring things like that up in debate, but he does bring them up when he's presenting to the public in his books. So I think that's one of the main issues I see with Bart Ehrman, is that in his books that he writes for the public, he likes to bring up issues that are non-issues, or an issue that only seems like an issue or a contradiction, or that it's at odds with other parts of the scripture if you don't know much about the New Testament. And again, like I mentioned on my main channel, I am going to look into Bart Ehrman's book, Jesus Interrupted, hopefully so I can shed some light on some of the issues I see there, and hopefully help Rhett out, and maybe Link. I haven't watched Link's video yet, and other people, but it's frustrating because he's so intelligent, but he makes such simple blunders. And I think, well, I don't want to say, I don't want to put words in his mouth, because like I said, he doesn't present certain things in the scholarly world because he knows that people will push back against it, and they know that it's not an issue. But when writing to the public, he'll utilize some of those tactics because it sells books. Just an interesting thought. Like I said, I'll get deeper into them. I'll provide more specific examples in my upcoming video over the next couple of weeks. But I just wanted to kind of video some of the issues I had, and it's kind of frustrating because I've heard the story, like Rhett's story, over and over, is that, you know, people will find issue or with the science, or they're not sure what to think about this, or they're not sure about the history of this or history of that. But then they come to Bart Ehrman, and Bart Ehrman gives them the leverage they think they need to get over the authority of Scripture. Because the authority of Scripture is the final hurdle that people think they need to get over in order to discredit Christianity. Because the authority of the Bible is the main tenet of Christianity. That is at the heart of the issue. If the Bible isn't authoritative, then Christianity just becomes a pragmatic lifestyle. not based on reality or truth. So I hope this helps, guys. Yeah, what do you think about Bart Ehrman? Have you found any issues or errors that he has made? Or have you found an area in one of his books or one of his lectures where he seems to put forth this idea of contradiction or things that are odd in the scriptures that aren't really there if you do a little more digging? Well, thanks for stopping by, guys. Hope you liked this video. Like it if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't like it. Comment down below and subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you later.